Welcome to my page. I haven't done an intro video, so this is gonna be it. Here's a little background and history about Lionheart Motoring. This upcoming May 27th will officially mark 2 years of my survival birthday. It's a hard story to tell and a lot easier to tell in person, but May 18th, it was the official date of 2021 where I was involved in a pretty nasty rear-ended accident. Unexpectedly, I was the passenger of my mom's X3 BMW and never expected that a minor incident would turn into something that I would have to fight for my life for. It was where the 405 became the 101, and for those of you that are in SoCal, you know that freeway. Sometimes you'll catch yourself coming to a stop and watching your rearview mirror, expecting to, watch and monitor traffic behind you in hopes that you're not going to get slammed into. Unfortunately, there was an incident that happened where traffic was stop and go. We had started to accelerate for, I would say, roughly a minute before we came to another stop. And that was right there on the transition where the 405 becomes the 101, and I was heading home with my mom. I could feel this universal energy. I happened to look left to my mom to tell her how scared I was, and I said, "Mom, I'm so..." Boom, we had the interaction. Because my neck was completely turned to the driver at that time, the pressure of the accident was all on the artery of the right side of my neck. In that moment, when you're hit with, any type of accident, your adrenaline starts to kick in. I continued to work for about another month before coming to the conclusion that something was seriously wrong. There was a particular day I can remember where I'll let it pass. I was sitting on a computer trying to do a simple Excel spreadsheet little task. And I remember turning over to Daniel Valencia, who was one of my bosses at that time, and saying, "Hey man, I need your help with doing this." In the moment, he looked up at me and said, "What's wrong?" And sometimes, though people may not realize it, that can be a triggering word for someone when you're not okay. At that time, I had done a pretty good job on concealing it and not showing how much pain I was in. But I was continuing to work with pins and needle pain, covering half my brain, going around my ear to the right side of my neck. It took 3 times to go into the ER, and eventually on that 3rd time, a doctor was able to do a CTA scan with iodine. Prior to, they had done CT scans, but there was no success in actually finding out what was wrong. They finally did the CTA scan with iodine because I have a kidney issue. They were kind of hesitating on putting the iodine through my body and through the system. So eventually they did. I remember that moment of sitting in the emergency room, and basically the look on the doctor's face as she came into the room with me and my mother to explain what had happened and the aftermath of the car accident. It wasn't only that I had a dissection of the carotid artery from that accident, it was also that during that time, continuing to work, my blood pressure had been running so high that I now had 3 aneurysms, starting at the base of my skull and moving up. And the moment I knew, something like this is completely out of my hands, I knew that panicking wouldn't really do much, and I was gonna stick out this journey to really see, what lies for me on the other side. But the 3rd doctor was Dr. Taki over at Los Robles. He asked me if I was ready for the procedure the following morning. I said, "My life is in your hands." With this type of incident and car accident, it's very unlikely that the survivor of an accident like that ends up being okay. Dr. Taki came in, had a successful surgery, even though there were 2 times that I bled out from the seals that they had placed on my arteries popping off, which is unfortunate but completely out of their control. I had to face, fighting for my life roughly 3 times before knowing that I was on a path to full recovery. I feel super lucky and blessed to be here. Because I had 3 aneurysms, I also had a lot of symptoms that were, the exact same thing as anyone else that has a stroke. So I remember getting out of the hospital And simple tasks like not being able to stand on my own were real issues. And I remember that first few weeks of coming home, I had to stay with my mom, and I kept thinking, how is this okay for her? How is her life going to be affected by this if I'm not able to make a full recovery? Nowadays, I have to be super cautious with having an incident to my neck. I remember when I first got out of the hospital, my doctor wouldn't even let me go into a car for a long drive in fear of an accident happening again and me going right back to the ICU. It's been a little rough journey, and now I'm on one mission. If something like that can happen to me when I'm on the friggin' freeway, then one thing I want to experience, and I'm going to experience, is being in my own vehicle on a racetrack. You know, eventually Han's device and all these safety equipment is going to be a necessity, which is why the roll cage, other than gutting my car, the roll cage with Daniel Valencia was one of the first things I came out to build. Safety is definitely priority, and I know that that's definitely going to be what supports me and backs me up through this journey, and knowing that everything is going to be perfectly fine. I would rather get to experience something like that than to one day innocently be on a freeway and have my life come to an end. Stay tuned, because eventually I want to get into my dad, a little bit of background about my life, my grandfather, his survival story, and what has led up to this point in time. We're at a major iconic spot with a super iconic story, and I hope that some of you guys will be touched by this. I know there's a lot of commotion with the cars going back and forth, but it's just a moment to really appreciate the fact that I still get to be here today, and just the understanding that I have so much more to do before that time comes to an end for me. And for those of you that have been watching, you know, you've seen a little bit of a journey from scale modeling to working on real cars, and now to being in my first race car on the Laguna Seca racetrack. A lot of you will watch, but not really know what I've overcome. This is just a little bit of insight to a girl's journey where, you know, technically this girl is not supposed to be here, but life has so much more waiting for her. To Lionheart Motoring, what I've started to brand, that strength, that courage to really chase whatever it is that you most desire. I can tell you that life has its ups and downs. We all have different struggles, but you never know what tomorrow is going to hold for us. So the most and the best advice I can possibly give is to live every single day, not just like it's your last, but really pouring in your passion into what you do, because you never know who you're going to impact along the way. For those of you that thought this would just be a scale modeling page, I hope you guys will join me in this journey, stick around a little bit, and definitely give me some feedback or suggestions as we go. So welcome to the community, and I hope that this little Lionheart Motoring difference is not only going to impact your life, but you'll be willing to kind of join in on all the fun. Thanks, guys. I promise, this journey is just getting started. In the future, I hope that when you guys see this logo or Danval Racing, something good is in the works. And I promise, it's something you're not going to want to miss out on. So